Secret visits to the Baal Shem Tov. Once, on a certain morning, Rabbi Yosef and Zvulun left Lubavitch, supposedly on a self-imposed exile. In reality, their destination was Mezhebush, the seat of the Baal Shem Tov. Rabbi Yosef had already won Zvulun over to the new teachings of Hasidism and had taken him to visit the Baal Shem Tov. They were both absent from Lubavitch for 3 or 4 months. When they returned to Lubavitch, both their faces were radiant with a strange inner happiness, clearly indicating that they had not suffered any hardships during their supposed exile. It was the year 1755, the third year after the Maggid Rabbi Yosef had taken Rabbi Yisachar Dov to be his son-in-law. The father-in-law finally disclosed to his son-in-law that he and the scribe Zvulun were disciples of the Baal Shem Tov, and whenever they disappeared from Lubavitch, their destination was Mezhebush, where they visited their new leader. The Maggid now began to introduce his son-in-law into the new Hasidic teachings, which quickly caught his interest. A new world was revealed to him. All that he had failed to understand previously now became clear to him. In El of that year, Yisachar Dov went together with Zvulun to visit the Baal Shem Tov. Rabbi Yosef had to stay in Lubavitch to preach to the congregation during the high holidays. For 3 months, Yisachar Dov stayed with the Baal Shem Tov. He spent the high holidays there and saw the Baal Shem Tov in all his majestic splendor. He took notice of his manner of living and paid attention to the way he prayed. He also listened to his interpretation of the Torah. Everything contributed to turn him into a burningly enthusiastic chassid. He still had much to learn, though, so when he returned home, he delved deeply into the study of Hasidism. Now they were a threesome in Lubavitch: the Maggid Rabbi Yosef, the scribe Zvulun, and the young Yisachar Dov. They were able to get together to study Hasidism and to share their opinions about various matters of high consequence. No one in Lubavitch or elsewhere learned of their secret, that they were Hasidim and followers of the Baal Shem Tov of Mezhebush, whose name was beginning to be known in the Jewish world, but whom it was not yet safe to follow openly. The time had not yet come for the disciples of the Baal Shem Tov to come out into the open with the new teachings of their rabbi. The time was not right for this, particularly in White Russia, Lithuania, and the neighboring countries. These countries had to wait for those great souls, especially the Alter Rebbe, Shneor Zalman, the founder of Chabad, who introduced the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov to the Jews of these very districts and established them there for the coming generations. And so, meanwhile, these 3 disciples of the Baal Shem Tov studied Hasidism together in Lubavitch, perfecting themselves in his teachings and strengthening themselves in their own good deeds, thus preparing the ground for Hasidism in the future. Already their new way of life, their good deeds, their love for the ordinary workers, their new approach toward the unlearned to implant in them the love for Judaism, all these things were a means of paving the way for their future Hasidic leaders and followers. And as we see, it was actually in Lubavitch itself that the foundation of Hasidism was laid. No wonder then that Lubavitch became the home of Chabad and the very center of Hasidism for White Russia and Lithuania. Not only did these 3 righteous men lay the foundations of Hasidism in Lubavitch, but Lubavitch was also the place where Shneor Zalman received his early instruction in the Torah and from none other than Rabbi Yisachar Dov. Thus, long before the teacher and founder of Chabad knew of Hasidism, and perhaps even before he had heard of the Baal Shem Tov, for he was then but a lad of 12 years of age, he was already acquainted with the basic tenets of Hasidism as expounded by the Maggid Rabbi Yosef in his sermons. Shneor Zalman was thus influenced not only by his teacher Rabbi Yisachar Dov, but also by his teacher's father-in-law, the Maggid Rabbi Yosef, and maybe also by the scribe Zvulun, since the 3 always kept together. The spirit of Hasidism could be felt in all their talk, in their manner of living, and in their attitude toward their fellow beings, especially in the love for the common man. It was this love for the common man that was and remained the real basis of the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. He did not seek for high scholarship among Jews. He valued more the heart. The Jew could read his prayers in Hebrew even if he did not know the translation. The mere fact of his sincere utterance of these holy words in Hebrew was a source of satisfaction to the Almighty in heaven, the Baal Shem Tov declared. The Baal Shem Tov also felt that very much could be achieved with these ordinary men who only knew a chapter or so of Tehillim, these so-called common people who had always previously been brushed aside by the intellectuals and attacked in the sharpest terms by the preachers. These were the people who were now uplifted by the interest and devotion of the Baal Shem Tov. And it was from among them also that he began to draw a big following. Here is a characteristic example of one of the Baal Shem Tov's talks. Until the time of our patriarch Avram, the world was in darkness. In Avram's age, there were no righteous men, and there were no teachers to show the people of that period the right path, or to ask for mercy on their souls. But when Avram, our patriarch, came, he began to bring light to the world by teaching the people of his generation the true way to serve the Creator. He evoked the divine mercy of the Creator towards his humble creatures. Even for the wicked and sinful inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah, Avram tried to evoke God's mercy. And yet, the people of Avram's time were called a nation compared to a donkey. But the Jewish people are never subject to such a comparison. The true Am Haaretz, by which the unlearned Jewish man is called, is not really meant to be derogatory. By just this term, the Jewish masses are compared to the soil. For like the soil, everyone treads upon the Jew. But God had in this very soil put the power to bring forth all kinds of plants and fruits with which to sustain all his creatures. In the soil are also to be found all such treasures as gold, silver, diamonds, and all the other precious and important metals and minerals. So too are the Jewish folk. They are full of the finest, most precious qualities that man can possess, even the most ordinary among them. As our sages said, even the unworthy among you are full of virtue, as a pomegranate is full of seeds.